Hey everyone, so let's begin with week 8, and we're starting out with data structures. There's two sections in week 8. One is data structures and the other is building a shopping cart. So let's start out with data structures here, and I'm just going to create that folder first. So I'll head to the folder where I store all of my projects, and I'll create a new folder here and call it week 8. And I'll just go into it and open that up with VS Code. So this section here, data structures, is similar to what we did last week. They're just going to explain different types of variables here. Here we're more working with list type of structures, so variables that contain more than one thing within them. So let's go through this. Okay, so the first thing we went over is lists. So I'm going to create a file here and call it data.py. And inside of this file, I'm just going to create a list here. So I'll call it my list, and I'll set it equal to the square brackets here. So the square brackets is how you create a list, and the items inside of the square bracket need to be separated by a comma. So for example, here we can have apple, car, and pot. So this list now has 3 items inside of it, and they're all separated by a comma here. And to get access to one specific item inside of this list, we need to use the word my list, which is the name of the list. And then we need to use our square brackets here. And inside of the square brackets, we need to give the index of this item. So for the index, let me just do this on a new line. Here, this would be 0, and then this would be 1, and this would be 2. So similar to how you index a string, it starts at 0, and then 1 and 2. And if we had another item here, that would be 3. And notice here, this is the third item, but it's actually 2. That's because indexing starts at 0. So if we were to print out this entire list, so my list, and we ran this, it would print out the whole list as is, with all the items inside of it. Now if we wanted one specific item from inside of here, we can use that square brackets here and give an index, like for example index 1. So remember, apple is 0, 1 would be car. So if I ran this, we'd see that it gives us car here. And yeah, there's also, we can change the index inside of a list. So here if I print out the whole list again, and up here I can say my list 1 is equal to Theo. Now if I run this, you can see that now we have apple, Theo, and pot in the list. So on this line here, we replaced what was inside of index 1 here, which was car. Also what you can do is my list dot append, and then in here you can pass what you want to append to the list. Append means to add on to the end. So here I want to add on Theo, and now if I run this, you can see that the list now has 4 things inside of it, and it just added on Theo there at the end. There's also push and pop here. So if I were to do my list.pop and I ran this, by the way, all of these commands that I'm showing you here weren't covered in the video, but they're really useful, so I'm showing it to you as well. If we do my list.pop here and we run this, we can see that it popped off the last item that we had in our list. And I think push is not a command. So yeah, pop is how you pop off the last item that was on the list. Okay, so now they've basically showed us the append command again, which I've shown you already. And then they've also shown us the my list dot remove. And here we can specify a value here like apple, car, or pot. Remember this, where we're using remove, we don't specify the position, we give the actual value, like car here. And now if I run this, we get the list back without car inside of it. And I'm just curious here what happens if we misspell it inside of the remove. Okay, so it throws an error here and it says X is not in list. So this is X and it's not in the list. So that's what happens if you spell it wrong. And if you spell it right, it will just remove it from the list and give the other two items. Now the other thing they showed us is sort. So if I run this, it will give us the items back in a sorted order, so alphabetically. But my list is already in alphabetical order, so let me switch this around here. I'll put pot on this side and car on this side. And now if I run this, it will still show us car in the middle and pot on this side because sort put them back into alphabetical order. Now we can also add reverse equal to true here. And what this will do is it will give it in reverse alphabetical order, so from Z to A instead of from A to Z. So if I run this, now it will be pot, car, and apple. So the opposite of the order we had before. And yeah, other than remove, there's also insert here. So insert, we can do Theo. Actually, we need to give a position first. So I'll say at position 1. Remember, this is position 1. And I'm going to give a comma here. And I'm going to say Theo here. So if I run this, we can see that now Theo is at position 1. But it didn't remove car. Everything that was meant to be here and going forwards is now pushed forward 1 position. And yeah, that's how insert works. It inserts a value into the position you give it, and then it moves what was in that position originally 1 position forward, and then it keeps doing that for every item in the list. So originally this was position 1. Now because Theo is being inserted into position 1, this has to go to position 2. And then because this was already in position 2, it has to go to position 3. So next we're going to look at tuples here. So I'm going to close this. And I'm going to create a new file here called tuples.py. And then inside of it, we're going to create my tuple, which is a variable. And basically the way we create a tuple here is the same as how we create a list, except instead of using square brackets, we use the normal brackets. So inside of here, I'm just going to put numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And they need to be separated by commas here. Actually, I'm going to put words inside of it, just so that we're keeping with what we did in the previous example here. And I'm going to put apple, car, and pot here. So if we were to print this out, we can print out my tuple, which is the name of the variable here. And it would basically print out the same way, except instead of showing square brackets here, it would show the normal brackets. Now the thing about tuple is you can't change what's inside of it. So down here, if I do my tuple, and to get an index, we do it the same way. We use the square brackets and a number like 1 here. So remember 1 would be car because this would be 0. And we'll set it equal to Theo here. Now if I try and run this, it's going to give me an error here. And the error says tuple object does not support item assignment. So what that means is when you create a tuple, you can't change what's inside of it. It's stuck as it is. So this is basically like a constant variable. And yeah, to access one specific item inside of the tuple there, I'm just going to comment this out instead of deleting it. So to access one specific item inside of a tuple there, we use our square brackets at the end, and we give the index value like 1 here. So the first index will be car here. If I print this out, we see that it prints out car. Now below this, I'm going to print type, and this is a function, so we need to give it an object here. I'm going to pass in my tuple. And if we run this, we can see here that the type is of type tuple here. This class thing, I'll explain what it is later on. I don't know if we'll cover it in this course, but I'll definitely do it in my Python playlist, which is on my channel. So make sure you're subscribed, and yeah, let's see what's next. Okay, so although we can't change the items inside of a tuple, what we can do is we can create a new tuple like tuple 2, and we can set it equal to my tuple times 3, for example. And we could also add this to another tuple to have both values into one tuple here. But if we run this, I forgot to print out tuple 2 here. But yeah, if we run this, we'll now see that we have apple car pot, and then apple car pot, and then a third set of apple car pot. So basically it added 3 of these into tuple 2 because we used multiplication here. So I'm just going to comment this out. And here I'll create another tuple 2. And I'll say it's equal to Theo and John. And here I can actually do tuple 3. And I'll say it's equal to my tuple plus tuple 2. And let me just change this print here to print out tuple 3. So if I run this, it will now print out one tuple that has all the values inside of it. So all the values from the first tuple and tuple 2, which we can see here, it has apple, car, pot, Theo, and John. So what's happening here is it's just concatenating them both together because we used a plus sign here. And actually it's just creating a whole new tuple, so it's not modifying what's inside of either of those tuples. And remember, the rule is we can't modify any item that's inside of a tuple. So here what's happening is it's adding them both together and then storing them inside of this new tuple 3 variable here. So these two still stay the same. And we can test that out by printing my tuple here, and we leave everything else as is. And we can see that it wasn't altered, it still has only apple, car, and pot inside of it. And then tuple 2, this will have only Theo and John inside of it, the same as what we set here. But tuple 3 will have all of the items inside of it because that's what we stored here. We added the two tuples together and we stored them into here. So before we move on from tuples here, a common use for tuples that I've seen is when you're working with servers. What won't change is the server's IP and the server's port. So that's something you could store in a tuple. Like here you could store the IP 127.0.0.1. That's just a localhost IP. You'd store the actual IP of the server here, and then you'd store the port number here like 447. And this would never change. You never need to change what's inside of this. So this is a good use of tuples. You can store values like this inside that won't ever need to change. But for any items that do need to change later on in your program, lists are what you'd use. So tuples are for basically storing constant variables that will never change. Okay, so next we're looking at sets here. So I'm going to create a new file and I'll call it sets.py. And inside of the file, I'm going to create a set. So I'll say my set, and I'll set it equal to, we need to use a curly brackets here. And again, I'm going to give the same values here. So apple, car, and then pot. And if we just print this out as it is, so I'm going to print out my set here, and we run this. We see it just gives us the 3 values, and this time they're in curly braces. So we have basically the same functions as we did with lists here, except instead of append we use add. So we can do mySet.add, and in the brackets here we can give a new value like Theo. And now if I run this, we can see it added Theo to that set. Also we can do remove, so I can do my set dot remove, and we can remove apple here. So now if I run this, we can see that apple is now removed from the set. Okay, so also what we can do is we can have something like set1, and we can set that equal to we need our curly braces here, and we'll say Theo and John here. And then we'll call this our union set, so union underscore set. And this can be any name here, it's just a variable. I'm just naming it this because that's what the guy in the video did. So we set it equal to my set, which is the first set here, dot union, and union is a function here, so we need our brackets, and inside of the brackets we give it the second set to add on to this. So I'm going to say set1 here, and here let's print out union set. So I'm just going to clear this first because it's a bit messy here. And if I run this, we can see that now it gives us one set with all the items inside of it. So this basically concatenated the two sets together, it added them both, and it put them into the union set here. So that's a way of combining two sets together. And actually, before I move on from here, let me add one more item into set 1. So I'm going to add apple here. And now if I run this again, notice that we have apple in set 1 and apple in in my set. But when we create the union of both of them together, we actually only see apple once in here. So when you use this union function, it joins the two sets together, but if there's any duplicate values such as apple here, where there's apple in set 1 and apple in my set, it will only add the value once. So it's a good way of getting rid of duplicates as well. So inside of the video, he showed us that at the top here, we can add 3 single quotes. And then at the bottom, if we add 3 single quotes as well, it will comment out all of this stuff. So now we're only running these 2 lines of code here. But actually this is not a good way to do it, because those three quotes are actually for creating a string. So a comment in Python is actually the hash symbol. And to comment out a large set of text like this, you'd select all of it and then press Ctrl and /, and that would add that comment in for you. And then if you want to remove it, you select the same text again and you press Ctrl and / again, and that would uncomment out those lines. So other than union here, we also have intersection. So I'm going to call this interset, and I'm going to set it equal to my set, which is the first set we have here, dot intersection, and this is a function again, so we need our brackets, and the second set we're going to give it here is set1, which is this set here. And what this intersection will do, so my set dot intersection, what it will do is only add the items that are common in both lists. So if I print this out, interset, and let me clear this terminal first. So if I run this, we'll see that it only has Theo here. And the reason why it has Theo here is because Theo is present here. You don't see it here, but remember I added it down here. I did my set.add Theo, and we removed apple. And yeah, so the only 2 items that they have in common are Theo and apple, but because we removed apple, it's not showing here. So I'm just going to remove this line here. And now if I save this and run it, we can see that now it gives us Theo and apple here. The reason why it's doing that is because when we use intersection here, it's returning only the values that are in both sets, my set and set 1. And you can see we have apple here, and we've added Theo. And then in set 1 we have Theo as well, and we have apple here. So intersection returns items that are in both sets. And then as the opposite of intersection here, we have difference. So I'm going to call this one diff set. and I'm going to set it equal to my set again, which is the name of our first variable here, dot difference, and as a parameter for this function I'm going to give it set1 here, and I'm going to make sure that's what we're printing. So if I run this, now instead of giving us only what's the same between both lists, it will now give us only what's different between the two lists. So here we have car and pot, and if you look here we have car and pot, but notice that it didn't give us John here, and we don't have John in set1 in my set, but we do have John in set1. So what difference does is it only gives us the items in the first list, which is this list, which are different from the second list. So I hope that makes sense. It didn't give us this item because it's not in the first list, and it's only checking which items are different between the first list and the second list, and it's only giving us those items from the first list. So if we have more items in here, like Paul for example, it's not going to give us Paul either because Paul is in the second list, not the first one. But if I were to cut Paul from here and paste it up here, it will now give us Paul in that list because it's only checking the items in this first list and making sure which ones are different from the second list here. I know I explained that a bit badly, but yeah, that's the best I could do for that explanation. Okay, so next let's look at dictionaries. I'm going to create a new file and call it dictionary. I don't know if I spelled that right, .py. And yeah, a dictionary, you basically create it the same way as a set here, so you use your curly brackets, but the difference is a dictionary has key value pairs. So I'm going to call this my object here, my obj, and I'll set it equal to the curly brackets here, and I'm going to create again apple here, but this time we want to use our colon here and then pass in a second value like Theo here. And now if I actually print this out, so I'll print out my obj here and I run this, it will show me exactly how I wrote it there. But what's going on here is when we want to print out one specific value here, so this first value here is a key and the second value here is the actual value. So if I were to try and index this, I could use the index of apple here. Notice here I don't have to use indexes like 0, 1, 2, 3 anymore. As soon as I put those square brackets in, it's prompting me to type the word apple here. And if I select apple there and I print this out, it's actually going to print out the word Theo here. So the reason why it's doing that is because it's storing these two things as a pair, and it's using this as the key and this as the value. So let's add one more thing here. I'm going to add car, and we need to add our colon again. For each item in this, it needs to have two parts, a key and a value. So car we'll say is John. And now you can see here that I can type in car as well, and if I print this out, it will give us John here, because car is the key and John is the value. So I hope you guys understand how that works. The reason why I named it my object here is because in Python this is called a dictionary, but in any other programming language this is usually called an object. And yeah, other than just printing out those keys, if we wanted to add something into this dictionary, we can just do my obj and we use our square brackets here and we type in a key. So here I'm going to type grape and I set it equal to Paul here. So we can see that there's no grape inside of this dictionary, but we can actually create a new key this way. So here we're creating a new key called grape and we're setting it equal to Paul here. So I can actually print out grape down here, or actually let's print out that whole dictionary just to make sure it's inside of it. And yeah, you can see now we have apple, car and grape, and they each have values, Theo, John and Paul. And obviously we can do something here like modify one of these. So if I were to type apple in here and I now run this, we can see that it now replaced the value inside of apple with Paul here. So originally apple was Theo and now apple is Paul down here. So yeah, that's how you would replace a value inside of a dictionary. Now for dictionaries part 2, I'm not sure if it's an error or not, but on the IT Varsity site here, it shows me a video of doing maths with the different variable types. So like how to do maths between two numbers or two strings or stuff like that. So I'm not sure if they put the wrong video in here or if there just is no dictionaries part 2. But yeah, I'm going to skip over that part because this is definitely not what they're supposed to be showing here. And we all already know how to do the basic math sums. We know that plus is the plus sign, minus is the minus sign, division is the slash sign, and multiplication is the star sign. And we also know how to do modulus and all of that. They showed us in last week's lessons. So I'm not sure if they just put the wrong video here or what's going on. But yeah, that's what they're showing me for dictionaries part 2. And okay, so that was the end of the first part, which was data structures. And I'm actually going to end the video here and upload this. And then if you guys need help with the second part, let me just go back and show you what it is. So the second part down here is the shopping cart project. If you guys need help with this, I'll make a video for it as well. But for now, I'm just going to upload the data structures video. And yeah, leave a comment if you need help with the shopping cart. And I'll see you guys in the next video.